Mike, good evening. Glad to have you here with us. It's been very good 2 days with the World Football Summit. I would like to hear from you what's your overview about the conference and the people over here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. I think the conference is amazing. There's a lot of diversity here, a lot of excitement. It seems like a lot of transformation, which often isn't always the case in sport. So it's really nice to see just many bright eyes and ideas and people networking and getting together at event like this. And what a beautiful brand new building that it's
Nice.
hosted in as well too.
Is it your first time in Riyadh?
Yeah, it is. It is. So it's also been educational for me in many ways.
The good thing that you come in the perfect time. We don't have that
Cool.
that hot. Yeah, I mean the weather is nice and
Yeah.
it's getting a little bit colder. But I mean, I was actually looking at your profile on the LinkedIn, and it comes to me that you've joined Juventus the time Ronaldo left, which is something very challenging. And I believe when Juventus signed Cristiano Ronaldo, they had a marketing strategic plan. I would like to hear from you the like since joining Ronaldo, has he really impacted the Juventus commercial plan?
Yeah, I'd say so. I can speak to the last 3 years and a few months because that's when I started. As you said, I had the luxury of starting the exact next day after Ronaldo left, which
Oh,
which was deliberate. I mean, that was partly planned. But Ronaldo had a huge impact, without a doubt, on Juventus from a globalization perspective in terms of attracting fandom in all sorts of areas of the world. Commercially, from a revenue perspective, helping with elevating sponsorship packages. Certainly, jersey sales when he joined were impressive. We were a bit unlucky and unfortunate in that part of the time with Ronaldo, COVID hit, and
yeah.
so that was a difficult and surprising time that, of course, you can't plan. And so
Absolutely.
our time with Ronaldo, from a commercial point of view, was somewhat unlucky because we had this interruption of COVID amongst him being with us, which made it difficult for things like selling tickets in stadium.
Yeah.
But yeah, without a doubt, I mean, Ronaldo is a star worldwide, and stars attract great audiences, and so we saw that.
And how did you actually like how you change the marketing plan? Removing moving one of the best stars that has been in the organization.
Yeah, so when I joined, I mean, that was a bit the headline, right? Like you've got Ronaldo and his called 700 million at the time social media audience, and then
Wow.
the next day, arguably, it goes away. Now, clubs don't lose all of the audience when big players come in and come out, and if clubs do a good job when star players come in, they can
Keep
retain
it.
fans, and so it wasn't like a mass exodus when he left. That's for sure, but we did have to look at, okay, from an internationalization perspective, how do we engage a global fan base being less reliant on a huge star player? And those, to your point, are very different strategies that you need to deploy versus when you have a star player and you
Absolutely.
can just, I mean, shoot as much content as possible and push it out as much as you can. And generally speaking, it does quite well. And so, in a way, you have to work harder and work smarter in some ways to earn that trust and that engagement from a global population. And so, where we started was looking at like what is an internationalization of football and defining that and saying, well, internationalization of a fan base is very simply put just creating emotion with people all over the world. And today, emotion is mainly driven globally through content because most people, they might not have a chance to come to our stadium,
Absolutely.
and so because of that, the content area of our business was the first focus, and we had to
Nice.
move pretty quick. Was how do we make sure that we're engaging this global audience in as relevant way for them as possible. And so we really retooled ourselves. And so what we did was first we did a lot of listening to our fans. We did quantitative research. We did qualitative research. We met with fans in different pockets all over the world. And what we learned was fandom had really evolved quite a bit. And this was 3.5 years ago when I started. And taking a few steps back, looking at our audience, Juventus is an Italian club with a long family history. I mean, the Agnelli family have had ownership for over 100 years. The club is 127 years old. So there's definitely a very strong Italian roots, and there always will be to the company. But our global audience is 94% outside of Italy and 40% under 24. And so we had to take a few steps back and look at that audience and say, okay, from a content perspective and storytelling, how are we appealing to that global fan base in as best way as possible? And so we recently, a year and a half ago, built something called the Juventus Creator Lab, where we took a lot of the lessons we learned from research.
What is the
Juventus Creator Lab?
Great.
Yeah, and so what it is it's imagine like an LA style YouTube house or a gaming studio dropped right in the center of the Juventus village. And what we've done is we've given the control of our platforms to essentially influencers that have following, that can speak the voice of the community and the voice of the channel. We've partnered with influencers and media to essentially help push our voice out there. And we've changed our
Italian
production
influencer
style.
or like
All over. And in fact, mostly non-Italian because Italian is the 6th most spoken language by our fan base worldwide. And so again, it comes back to how do we reflect that audience? And so what the Juventus Creator Lab has done is it's allowed us in a short period of time to see numbers greater than when we had Ronaldo in a period that we don't, which is important for building fandom and engagement, and also important for the commercial side of the business. And so there's lots of techniques that we've been deploying, which I could go further into detail if it's helpful. But the Juventus Creator Lab as a new way of doing media in sport and in football that I haven't seen anywhere else has really helped us in that post-Ronaldo period, to answer your question very directly, on engaging with an international audience.
سمعت بالجديد؟ تاخذ عطر واحد ويجيك 2 هدية من راعي الطيب، والعرض على كافة المنتجات. لا تفوت الفرصة.
You already spoke about the Juventus and the engagement of the Italian roots, and one of the things that has been criticized by the Juventus fans as well as the people in Italy was changing the logo. And you know, Juve has been like, you know, if you see the logo of Juventus, like, you know, that's Juventus. I mean, if you see the jersey and the black and white, you know it's Juventus, the bianconeri, as
Yeah.
the Italian says. But when Ronaldo joined, the management decided to change the identity of the logo, and personally, it hurts my heart to. For example, I'm a fan of Al-Nassr, and I don't want my team to change the logo, even though if it's held the commercial side. But what is your sights on that?
Yeah, that's a
On that
great
side?
question. And we're seeing across the industry a lot of clubs going through these changes right now. And I'd say both in sport and in non-sport. I mean, my LinkedIn recently was blown up about the Jaguar recent logo change. And so I think logo changes, or better said, visual identity changes in sport are becoming much more common.
My car is Jaguar, by the way. So,
There you go. So we can have a discussion afterwards about that logo change.
Yeah.
But I think to answer your question, it's very difficult, and you have to be really careful because you can really hurt the hardcore local fan base that in some ways and is the most important audience, because they're the ones that really are fully vested and spending money with a club, and you don't want to dissatisfy that audience. From a Juventus perspective, the decision was made because we were never really heavily connected to a city. And so one advantage that we saw that we had was Juventus isn't Torino Juventus,
Yeah.
like most clubs that are connected to a locality. And so our thinking was, how can we turn that into an advantage? like we can act and behave global. We don't need to hold ourselves to a single city. And then even inside of Italy, our fan base is actually very equally spread all across Italy.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're in London fighting for fandom in a borough. Our fans were and still are all over Italy, and we're becoming more global. And so the thinking on the logo transformation was, like, how do we reflect an Italian brand essence and an icon that the world can connect to, that feels global and modern, and shows that we can both be a football club and a global brand. And so that was the thinking behind it. Now, you're absolutely right. When it first happened, there was, I'd say, both negative and positive reception. I'd say still today, you're going to have subsets of fans that are going to say, go back to the old logo. But then there's lots that have fully adapted, and they're happy with the logo that we have now.
How can you maintain? How can you maintain it? The changing of the logo and the angry of the fans, or the and the commercial. How can you maintain?
It's
two things.
It's difficult. I'd say I'm happy to say that, like, we've been through that. So I'd say, like, this isn't a strong tension point today. I mean, we've gone through the change.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're on the other side of it. I think what's important when you go through the change is you don't change who you are, right? And so we continue to act and behave with the values and the behaviors of Juventus. We continue to reinforce that while there's a lot of clubs being bought out by foreign ownership, we're still local, and we're Italian, and we're family oriented. And so I think the most important part in the logo change is really, like, the logo is what's on the surface, but if the soul remains the same, then ideally you're not going to totally disrupt your fan base. I think where brands make wrong decisions is when they change everything. They change the visual identity, and then they change also the way that a company and a brand acts and behaves. And that is a very dramatic thing to do. And I think that that's where some companies make wrong turns.
And we've seen a lot of teams changing the logos, by years, and I in my opinion, it's been understandable from Juventus' point of view to change the logo, coming in Cristiano Ronaldo, but I'm more tend to stay with the identity of the club. But I mean, removing from that to a very, like, epic topic that has been around here in Saudi Arabia. I mean, one thing that I was speaking with a guy that he was saying that the team performance, so winning and losing, is affecting the commercial wise. So if the team is winning, we sell more T-shirts, jerseys, souvenirs, and these kind of things. But if the team is not winning, we are not losing. And is it right?
Yeah. So I guess to close on the logo point, and I get your personal feelings. What we have to look at and balance is the numbers. And so I mentioned, like, our digital audience, 40% under 24. That audience is not interrupted at all.
Absolutely.
And so it's about balance. But on the team performance side, I want to say one answer, but I mean the actuality is performance matters. It absolutely does. I think when you win more, commercials made easier because you're a more attractive club, because maybe you sell more tickets, you've got a more exciting game of football, you've got probably some interesting players. And so definitely it helps. I'd say there are certain clubs, and maybe very few, that can continue to be strong commercially even when they're not winning. And for me, that reflects the power of a really strong company and a strong brand. And so I'd say I like to believe that Juventus is, despite us always wanting to win, we're in that category where we can still be commercially viable, even if we're not winning. That said, we always need to come back to winning because it is helpful. And then the extremes in football, of course, is relegation and promotion. And so when it comes to winning, that's a massive difference for us. Us being in the Champions League versus not is a significant portion of our total revenue. And so
Like game tickets or like say selling jerseys and
the share of audience broadcast revenue. And so for us, the two probably the same as most clubs is you've got like broadcast revenue and you've got sponsorship that generally make up the bulk of where revenue sits, and then ticketing tends to come in around third. But yeah, for us, not qualifying for Champions League is very significant in terms of revenue. And so we're lucky that generally we place in a position where we qualify, but not qualifying is has a direct, immediate impact on the commercial side of the business.
And there was 1 year, I believe, Juventus didn't make it to the Champions League.
Yeah.
2 years ago, I
Yeah.
believe so. But when I look at Manchester United, for example, they are not in their best years. I mean, they are not winning as much as the club used to be, but they're still doing like great commercial.
Yeah, they're often cited as that. Like I would like to feel that we're in their company, but they belong to a strong league that is growing quite a bit, and I'd say that definitely shelters and helps them because the visibility of Manchester United and of the Premier League continues to grow and to compete. So I think that certainly helps. But I do think it comes back to they've built such a solid brand and reputation that win or lose, people are willing to keep investing, which I think is, from my point of view, because I'm on the marketing side of the business, that's a wonderful thing.
Great, and we would like to when the Super Cup comes here and Juventus enter and the Big Four comes over here in Riyadh, they can make that kind of strategy with doing commercial things for the Saudi people and citizens as well. So you make the kind of a hub of Italian fan base.
Yeah, I mean we've been talking about it as a league. It's better when we unite, and so to have Juventus, AC Milan, Atalanta, Inter, I mean all here together, that's a powerful combination of clubs and fan bases and audiences, and so the more we can do together, then the stronger collectively we are, and I think the more impact and legacy that we'll be able to leave behind here once we leave. So I give the Serie A a lot of credit because we're not new to coming here, and so I think we came earlier than other leagues, and so it's not new for us, and I think that's hopefully appreciated in the market. But we always say like we're not intending to just come and go. We want to continue to have a presence. We see a lot of love for Italian football here, and so we hope that stays.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Mike, thank you so much.
Thank you for the time.
Was glad speaking to you. I would like to speak more, but
Anytime you want, that would be great. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.